This coin is graded mint state 70. 70, the highest grade on the Sheldon scale for numismatics, the number that most collectors associate with perfection. Now, let's look at it more closely. At higher magnification, you start to see something. A tiny disturbance, a faint break in the frost, a microscopic speck. So how can this still be a 70? And here's another coin. This one isn't even graded. It's a Vault Box Series 2 sample slab. Under magnification, again, we can start to see small imperfections. Does that prevent a 70? Does any visible mark automatically disqualify a coin? Or have we misunderstood what grading actually means? Mint state 70 does not mean perfect. So what does it mean? Grading is one of the most misunderstood areas of numismatics, especially at the top of the scale. Collectors zoom in. They increase magnification. They examine coins under 10 power, 15 power, sometimes 20 power, or even higher optics. And then they wonder why perfect coins still show something. Today, we're going to reset that expectation. We're going to talk about the 5x rule. Because once you understand that standard, your entire submission mindset changes. The word perfect has created enormous confusion in this hobby. Perfect implies absolute flawlessness, zero disturbances, zero imperfections, nothing visible under any magnification. But grading does not operate on that definition. Professional grading standards are built around 5-power magnification. That's the working standard. Not 10x, not 20x, not a digital microscope, not 4K resolution under studio lighting. 5 power. And that matters. Because once you exceed 5 power magnification, you begin to see things that are not relevant to the grade. You begin to see things like metal flow lines, planchet texture, microscopic die polish marks, surface granularity that exists on every struck coin. If you magnify any coin far enough, it will fail. Even a 70. Even a freshly struck coin straight from the mint. The difference is not whether something exists. The difference is whether it's visible and distracting at the grading standard. And it's that distinction that's critical. Let's talk about how grading actually works. Graders are not sitting at microscopes hunting for dust specks. What they are evaluating are things like surface preservation, luster continuity, strike sharpness, focal area cleanliness, and importantly, overall eye appeal. They are looking for distracting imperfections, a faint microscopic disturbance that only appears under extreme magnification is not what drives the grade. A visible, distracting mark in a focal area does. That's the difference. At mint state 70, the standard is no post-production imperfections visible at 5 power magnification. That does not mean no microscopic metal anomalies. It does not mean no planchet texture. It does not mean no atomic level irregularities. It means no grade relevant imperfections at 5 power. Once you internalize that, you stop chasing a myth. Now let's take a look at this 2021 Carson City Morgan dollar that received a designation of mint state 70. At normal viewing distance, the fields are clean. The cheek is smooth. The luster is uninterrupted. The strike is complete. But now let's increase the magnification beyond grading standards. We can see a faint irregularity here, a slight break in reflectivity. Under extreme lighting, it becomes even more obvious. Does that disqualify this coin? No, because at 5 power magnification, that disturbance is not distracting. It does not interrupt the eye. It does not break luster continuity in a meaningful way. Therefore, it falls below the grading threshold. And that is the difference between microscopic and material. Now let's take a look at this 2023 Eagle. This is a Vaultbox Series 2 sample slab. It's not graded, but it is encapsulated. Under magnification, you'll see some small ticks and spots here and there. At 15 or 20 power, it's very easy to spot. The question isn't, does something exist? The question is, would this be distracting at 5 power magnification? At standard grading magnification, this may barely register. It may not draw the eye. It may not interrupt the overall surface integrity. And that is where judgment comes in. And that is why grading remains both standardized and subjective. Two different graders may very well evaluate visibility differently, but both are operating under the same magnification standard. Not perfection, 5 power. Modern technology has changed how we view coins. We now have high-resolution cameras, 4K screens, digital microscopes, studio lighting. We now see coins in ways graders never intended them to be viewed. And that definitely distorts expectations. Collectors zoom in, see something microscopic, and conclude this isn't a 70. But the grading scale was never built around extreme magnification. It was built around market acceptability. If a coin presents as flawless under normal inspection and 5 power magnification, it qualifies. If we redefine perfection as nothing visible under a microscope, then no coin qualifies. Not even the best. And that would collapse the top of the grading scale entirely. So here's the practical takeaway. When you evaluate coins for submission, do not hunt for microscopic flaws. evaluate at 5 power, look at focal areas, look at luster breaks, look at distracting marks, and then ask yourself, does this draw the eye at grading magnification? If the answer is no, it may still qualify for a top grade. Understanding this prevents two costly mistakes. The first, oversubmitting coins that won't hold up at 5 power. And two, maybe even more importantly, undersubmitting coins that could actually qualify. The 5 power rule is a filter, and it brings clarity. So in conclusion, mint state 70 does not mean perfect. It means no distracting imperfections visible at 5 power magnification. Once you understand that difference, grading stops being mystical. It becomes structured, measured, intentional. That's the 5 power rule. And if you're submitting coins, that's the only standard that matters.